Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's another edition of Let's Talk Broncos. I'm excited to be back, Zach. This is like football mecca season right now. We were supposed to start 30 minutes ago, but Zach and I were having a whole conversation about the festivities going into it, all the halftime show, all the different interviews we've seen from the Super Bowl, all these coaches. We got an interesting quote from Fangio. We got a bunch of interesting stuff from Sean Payton. Jay Glazer had a really interesting story that came out about the Broncos. It's just really interesting to see all the different stories. It's rare you see so many of football minds, media, everyone to do with football in one place at one time, and that's what the Super Bowl has kind of brought to us. So a ton of stories coming out around the Super Bowl. I'm excited for the game. We'll get into the game as well. But Zach, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Like you said, excited for this football time of year. Excited to be back on the show with you, man. Excited for this game this weekend and everything. I think it's going to be a really just like great Super Bowl. I know not everyone is excited for Kendrick Lamar. I think definitely like the older demographic. I've seen some people not super excited about that, but I don't know. Like he's having such an amazing year for an artist, as you and I were just talking about. And then this game, like I get people not being excited about the two teams that we ultimately have here, but I'd say these are probably the two best teams this season. I think it's a kind of the matchup we deserve to get. This is a neutral field game now where the Chiefs, this reigning dynasty, is only a 1-point favorite. Who knows if the game will live up to the billing, but right now it feels like we're in store for an all-time classic. So I'm really excited. I'm feeling great. Not to keep rambling, but I also got some great stuff coming out on KOAcolorado.com right now. So go to KOAcolorado.com /Broncos and you can find articles of mine, some podcast stuff I'm doing with A-Rod over there. So check all that out. I'm really excited about that too.
Yeah, for sure. Check that out. Zach put an article out. He just mentioned it over there. You guys can check Zach's Twitter. He has all of his latest news to do with Let's Talk Broncos or KOA. It's really exciting to see. I've been following Zach for a while. I've been with Zach since the ground up, and his leaps that he's making in his career are amazing. I just want everyone to make sure they can say they were there watching Zach in the glow up stage, because that's what we're currently in. Don't cash on late. We don't want to see you. You don't talk to us. You're not getting a DM back when Zach's at 100,000 followers. Make sure you're here right now. That's what we're waiting for. So make sure you're congratulating Zach on all of his career stuff. He's moving up in the ranks, man. It's cool to see.
Thank you, Joe.
Absolutely, man. You deserve it. But let's move on into the topics of the Broncos. We mentioned some of the topics at the Super Bowl. All these people are together. All these people are talking. Sean Payton was on NFL Network, and I have a little clip to play here of what he said.
You need a veteran wide receiver. That's what I think. I'd like to see you.
I would say we need a joker.
You need a Reggie Bush.
An interior, and a joker now can be a tight end or a running back that has exceptional. We were spoiled here.
Yeah.
When you think about it, all right, you had Reggie, you had Jimmy Graham, Jeremy Shockey, Darren Sproles, Alvin Kamara. Those are interior, either tight ends or running backs.
Jokers.
That they have to be elite receivers that play tight end or running back. And then you get the matchups, and we had quite a few of them here because you're getting too high defense and you have to work the inside. And so I think,
where does a veteran wide receiver go in which bucket?
I think a veteran wide receiver fits in a need,
not a must-have.
I would say we're stronger there than some would think.
Okay.
A Devon Bailey, Troy Franklin. There's a number of receivers that we drafted a year ago. We'll look closely through the middle, inside linebacker, safety. There'll be a few other positions.
The first thing I have to say about that clip, Zach, my initial thought when I watched this, it might be the wrong thought because there were so many interesting Broncos nuggets in there. But but I was like, man, Sean Payton would never in his life give these nuggets to a local reporter. Never in his life. He would never in his life. I was watching Kay Adams' eyes light up like, oh, I could really they know some of these people that they could get all the interesting stuff out of Sean Payton.
Yeah, well, Kay Adams, and you're absolutely right. When he gets with the national guy, I mean, look at the Nathaniel Hackett comments.
Yep.
But then also Kay Adams, I swear, she gets comments out of everybody. She's got the Rachel Nichols factor.
The Rachel Nichols factor.
Which one is it? Who's the one on ESPN?
Rachel Nichols is for those that don't know, Rachel Nichols is the girl that got the woman that got the Jimmy Butler comments right after the practice. They were still sitting there watching the TV after the infamous Timberwolves practice. They're still in the locker room, and Jimmy Butler is on TV with Rachel Nichols. I think you're right. You nailed that one.
I meant Taylor Rooks, actually. It's with John Morant being like, yeah, no, we're fine in the West. And like now you got Sean Payton with Kay Adams being like, oh, we're going to be a problem next year. I think, yeah, we'll see how that goes.
They both work. They both work for different reasons. Yeah. I think some of the most interesting stuff to come out of this was obviously the Joker rule. I am sick and tired of the Joker rule being discussed, if I'm being honest. I think it's a need. I think everybody wants it, and I'm just kind of happy now that Sean Payton gave his definition on what a joker is, because I've been hearing every type of player described as a joker. Jaleel McLaughlin was a joker. Bo Nix is somehow a joker. Everybody's a joker to people. It's not. I'm happy we finally got it. It's a tight end or running back. This player has to be an elite receiver at their position, because defenses are in too high systems nowadays. You know, you have the two safeties up high, and we're trying to work the middle of the field. I'm curious, do the Broncos currently have a joker at all? Like, is this a need for the Broncos in your mind, Zach?
1,000%. And I think they have them. I just don't think they have a good one, you know, and I agree. That clip was amazing. We got so many good nuggets, him actually helping us understand what a joker is, why he wants it in the offense and everything. And look at his New Orleans Saints offenses. You know, Darren Sproles, who we mentioned, you know, Reggie Bush, Alvin Kamara, Jeremy Shockey, Jimmy Graham. I believe every single year he was the Saints head coach, he had at least one of those guys. And for a lot of his years as the Saints head coach, especially the best ones offensively, he had multiple of those guys there. You know, yes, they need a much better option there. Jaleel McLaughlin, I think even the biggest Jaleel McLaughlin fan wouldn't say he is a weapon comparable to any of those other guys. So it's something the Broncos have to continue to invest in. And I think, you know, I don't think it's just like, oh, you need the one guy and then you're set. You found that answer. You probably want multiple ways to attack that area of the field. And again, they need help at running back. They need help at tight end. They should pursue both.
I agree. I was thinking about it in relation to the draft. You know, Tyler Warren out of Penn State is a terrific player for a lot of reasons. I think he's one of the best yards after catch or just yards after contact tight ends I've seen in a really long time, right? Now, Sean Payton describes it as elite receiver. So I'm curious, like, should I be looking more at Colton Loveland at Michigan? Because that's who I'm looking at as an elite wide receiver, to the point where Michigan and sometimes would move him out to wide receiver this last year. Like, literally in pinches, your wide receivers are hurt. Colton Loveland was their X for games at a time because they needed a guy there. So it had me kind of change my philosophy on what the Broncos actually need at that tight end position. Maybe they're fine just having a cool blocker as their inline, and they're not really looking for the receiving stuff, because that quote-unquote joker is the guy they're looking for in that big slot type, the little Jordan Humphrey type. I think Loveland would be an option there to replace a person like that. I think yeah, go ahead, Zach.
No, I love that idea. I think that'd be perfect. People were so annoyed with Lil Jordan Humphrey this year, but that's an important role in the Sean Payton offense, as we keep saying. You know, Devon Villay can maybe keep growing into that big slot role when you want it to be more wide receiver focused, but yeah, they need a better tight end of some sort. I think Colston Loveland would be great. Gunnar Helm, I know we're both big fans of him. And then there's tons of running backs in this draft. I think they should be in a much better spot attacking between the hashes next season.
I totally agree with you. I think another interesting part that came out of that little clip was just how he looks at things. He has musts, he has needs, and he has wants. That's how he breaks it up into different categories there. He put vet wide receiver in need. I don't know if it was just because it felt like at the beginning. What was that?
He might have been nice. That's what she was kind of. The conversation started. We kind of I clipped that, but I came into it, I guess, a little late. She kind of opens talking about, I think what you guys need, I love Courtland Sutton, he's great, but I think you guys need another vet receiver. I think she was probably trying to set up a T. Higgins question or something.
Right. I totally agree with you there. It felt like, because Sean's initial point was, hey, we have guys on our team. Have you seen that Troy Franklin guy? Sean, I have. I don't think he's good. But I like, he was making some points there on who they have, Devon Villay, right? And trying to make it seem like our wide receivers are better than what people think they are. But the more AK Adams pushed, he was like, all right, it's a need. So I don't know if necessarily I'd put them there. The vet wide receiver, did you take that the same way, Zach?
I would. And I think we could say maybe it's a position they want to add some at, but I agree. I don't think they view it as a super pressing need. I think the more interesting takeaway there is probably they're probably not doing anything with Courtland Sutton then.
Yeah.
Outside of an extension or figuring out something to make that a happy relationship. I don't think you bring Bo Nix, into year 2 without Courtland Sutton.
I agree.
I think I'd like very excited about Devon Villay. Is he ready to be like the go-to number 1 option in an offense right now? I don't know. I don't know if that's the role I want to thrust him into. Also, he's done great as that power slot guy. Do we really want to just make him the X all of a sudden when Sutton's doing a pretty dang good job in that role? Marvin Mims, part of his blossoming down the stretch was them in some ways reducing his role and okay, rather than asking you to be like our Z receiver, you're going to kind of be this gadget piece that we use you in these creative designed schemed up ways, which is great, but I don't you don't want that to be your number 2 option in a passing game. It's great as an ancillary piece. And so I think the passing game actually makes a lot of sense right now, or the group of pass catchers makes a lot of sense right now. If you add a tight end to it, maybe a good running back in the draft too, it fits together really nicely. You've got young pieces that can hopefully continue to grow into roles and whatever. So I'm with you. I don't think it's a huge pressing need. And if anything, I think it kind of tells us they won't do much at wide receiver. And the bigger news there is not doing anything with Sutton.
Your Marvin Mims point was interesting, Zach, because it relates back to the Joker thing. I think Marvin Mims was their Joker this last year. Just playing at a position maybe they didn't want their Joker to play.
I don't even know. When
he was that running back, he was their Joker. That was what the same role would be for the Joker type running back role. The same stuff that you see Reggie Bush do out of the backfield, I think, in a lot of ways, was some of the stuff you would see Marvin Mims do in the passing game, at least.
I definitely think there's some overlap there. But again, I think when he talks about the Joker role, it's about kind of exploiting that middle area of the field. Right. And Mims, while I agree, he was that gadget piece. And, I think he might fit the definition the best last year. Or kind of how they had to make it work. But he was more of a boundary weapon, with the jet sweeps, end arounds, the wide receiver screens, even, bombing down the field.
Swings out of the backfield.
And to your point, maybe that was out of necessity. God, we don't have a real Joker. We've got to do this more creatively where, hey, in the past, my Joker was something when exploiting the middle of the field. I don't have that guy. So it's going to have to be Mims kind of exploiting the boundary. That's very possible. But either way, I think it'll be a lot different next year. I guess I'd say.
I totally agree. Again, he said the musts, needs, and wants is how he breaks these things up. At the end of that clip, Zach, he brought up it's, right down the middle is what he said. And then he went on to say inside linebackers and safeties. I thought that was interesting. The only real offensive position that came out of his mouth that he brought to attention to it was joker role. The other two were inside linebacker and safety. Those were the three things that he brought up in that clip. Would you be shocked to see the Broncos invest a ton into either of those positions? Would you be shocked if they drafted an inside linebacker in the first round or a safety in the first round?
No, I don't think Sean Payton or George Payton care too much with the draft value thing. We've seen Sean Payton trade up a lot for like Alvin Kamara and for other guys like the Marcus Davenport trade, which that was a premium position, but that doesn't make sense on a value chart. If they love a guy, they will disregard consensus views to go get their guy.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised, especially when I think there are safeties and linebackers that makes sense at pick 20. I'm pretty sure is where they're at. You get like Jahad Campbell, this athletic freak out of Alabama. At linebacker, as you and I have both talked about on here, I think the concern there is the linebackers that go in the first round are often athletic freaks. What makes a great NFL inside linebacker is instincts and not those athletic freak skills. Look at Devin White, right? Who got cut by the Bucs last year, goes to the Eagles, and he cannot get onto the field for the Eagles. And they have two great linebackers. Their weak link on their defense right now is Oren Burks, their backup linebacker, who's having to start due to an injury to Nakobe Dean. They would love another option there. They're not even interested in trying Devin White because he's just at tools. He hasn't put it at all together. So anyways, but I could see that happening. And then you've got guys like Malachi Starks, who is awesome out of Georgia. I would be fine with that pick in the first round. And then I know there's other guys like the South Carolina kid. I know has some hype.
South Carolina kid, Watts from Notre Dame is a guy a lot of people are really high on. Playmaker. There are some good safeties. It feels like this draft, Zach, everywhere where people will be, clutching their pearls about positional value is where the draft is strong. And then everywhere where everyone's like, these are the important positions is where the draft is weak. It's weird.
And with that mindset this year, and where the Broncos are picking, I think it'd be a little different if they were picking top 10, top 5.
Right.
But where just find a good player, other than quarterback, I could make the argument every single spot. Running back, obvious. We've covered it. Tight end, obvious. We've covered it. Wide receiver. Hey, they could still use a surefire Z in this offense. Emeka Egbuka around pick 20 makes a lot of sense and would be a great plug and play upgrade option. I could get behind that. There's some interior linemen in this classic, guard or center, that could help maybe potentially be an upgrade on a Luke Wattenberg, help insulate you upon an upcoming probably Ben Powers departure and help you stay somewhat cheap on that offensive line and talented. That's a very real possibility. Tackle. There's tackles who could slide in this draft that are maybe, is he a guard? Is he a tackle? But the Broncos need to find a long-term answer there. They could do that. They need help probably on the defensive line or could use some reinforcements there with DJ Jones going out. That'd be a fine pick. Edge would be one I wouldn't be thrilled with, but I could get behind it considering maybe Benito is out the door next year if he doesn't replicate this past season. Maybe he prices the Broncos out. Who know? I think there's also, there's the Twitter red flags there.
Sorry.
I
know I would personally keep an eye out for that one. Not necessarily because of the Twitter red flags or anything like that, just because of,
they could use an every down stud.
Skill sets. I think you could make that at least the argument that, hey, we're looking for different skill sets here. He brings a certain type of skill set, but I'm looking for something a little different there. It's a possibility.
More weight, more size.
So,
then
Zach, I
say-
want to move on from this one real quick. And we have one more clip to play here, guys. This one is from Jay Glazer. I believe this is from KOA, Zach's workplace.
Shout out
Let's
A-Rod.
check this out.
Sean knew about Bo Nix like the day of his pro day, literally back then. And it was funny too because what I'll do during the draft, like I don't do mock drafts, and I'll do Fox Sports Radio, and he kept calling me, and somebody had gave him some bad information that the Rams are trying to trade up for Bo Nix, and I'm like, dude, they're not trading up for him. He was convinced, and he was driving me crazy. He was calling a million times. I'm like, bro, I'm telling you, you're good. Nobody in front of you has him. You're good. And finally, he was like, I know. Someone gave me information. The Rams are trading up. And I literally called Sean McVay. I said, do me a favor. Can I let – and Sean McVay didn't even look at the quarterbacks. He literally didn't they didn't grade the quarterbacks. They were drafted one. So I said, can I let Sean Payton know that you're not trading up because this dude ain't going to sleep for like 5 more days, and he's driving me crazy. I think Sean McVay at first goes, wait another couple days, then you can do it. And then finally, it was like he kept calling, and like 2 days earlier, I said, hey, dude, McVay has allowed me to talk. They're not trading up from. You're good. You're golden. But he loved them that much.
That's I mean, you guys saw me laughing at this because it's just funny, man. I was telling Zach before the show, I don't know many relationships between coach and quarterback. I don't even know if it's relationship between coach and quarterback because really it just seems relationship between the quarterback. I haven't heard much about from coach. I've heard a lot from coach to quarterback, right? It's just a love affair, and it's been that way since the first time he was drafted when Chase Daniel and them sat down with Sean Payton and discussed what Bo Nix and how good they think he's going to be. Sean Payton gushes over this guy. It's really incredible how much he likes Bo Nix. He is all on the Bo leaving train, whatever you guys want to call it. He's all aboard.
Yeah, and I think some of that this is big for Sean Payton's legacy to actually develop a rookie, maybe turn him into a great quarterback. Some of it might be building up his confidence, but I think he absolutely does love the guy. I think it actually came from that Chase Daniels interview, but I remember the story this offseason, how he was like, man, when we met with Bo Nix, I asked him like what was in his backpack, and it was all football stuff. Everything in there had to do with football. And I was like, this is our guy. And I think understandably that story was made fun of. And I think, and people were like, this is how you chose your quarterback. I think it was probably less that's how they chose their quarterback and more Sean Payton loved Bo Nix and was like, this guy's, it's all football stuff in there. This guy's amazing. I think it was working backwards where like the infatuation was already there. We've all been there where you're in love with someone and you're like, no, that problem's not that bad. It's great. So I don't know. I think that's probably, he loves the guy, and why shouldn't he? And I think the sky's the limit there. Like Bo has all the requisite tools. He's not Josh Allen, but he has all the requisite tools you need. And the big thing for me at quarterback is like, do you have an aptitude for development and growth? And Bo Nix absolutely has that. I'm very excited to see what it looks like next year, what it looks like in year 3, and where it ultimately lands. I really think it could be elite quarterback. He's one of these juggernauts in the AFC, or maybe he's just a mid-tier fine starter. Neither outcome would ultimately surprise me at this point.
Yeah, I think Sean Payton's got to be thinking, man, if we can fix this guy's like pocket awareness a little bit in his feet in the pocket, we are going to be cooking here. One area I was so shocked, and just reflecting on the season a little bit with this one, I was so shocked with Bo Nix, Zach, was just some of the high-level throws. He made a lot of mistakes this year, especially just working in the pocket and stuff like that. I can think sometimes though, I'm like, oh my God, I did not expect the top tier throws that I've seen from Bo Nix this year. Some of the throws are legitimately like wow throws. What did I just see? That was a crazy throw. And it just kind of encapsulates that, me included, I think I could speak for all of Let's Talk Broncos, maybe except for Robbie. Robbie was on Bo Nix super early. That I didn't see the high level difficulty trick shot throws in his bag at all. I didn't see that. I thought, hey, people are underestimating his ceiling a little bit. I thought stuff like that. I didn't really get all of the just some of the trick shot throws. I just didn't see it coming. And he made quite a few of them this year, to the point where I'm like, okay, calm down a little bit, dude. We got to calm you down, because every throw is kind of a trick shot out there, you know? So Bo Nix has a positive career going with the Broncos. I think that this is a perfect case of perfect head coach meets perfect quarterback. Like that, the pairing right there is really important. I'm not so sure Bo Nix would be getting all these opportunities or even look nearly as good in a different situation. I think the pairing always matters a ton. And I think we underestimate that.
And one thing I would feel very optimistic about if you are, a Broncos fan, is Sean Payton's track record with quarterbacks. The mystery was, can he take a guy from the college game and like teach him how to be an NFL quarterback? That's what he hadn't really proven before. His track record of taking NFL quarterbacks and maximizing them, developing, like he developed Breeze long term, developing them, or just like Teddy Bridgewater developed him a lot when he was in New Orleans over those few years, or just maximizing them and getting the most out of what they can give him. He's demonstrated that a lot over the past few years. And I think now that you're over that first hurdle, that was the big question mark there, you should feel personally, I feel very excited. I think these two will continue to grow together. And, again, it's so hard, I think, to project these quarterbacks early on in their careers. But I feel really optimistic, where you have the architect behind this being Sean Payton, a guy who has demonstrated a great ability with quarterbacks, and Bo Nix, who, with all his faults and everything, has demonstrated a great ability for growth and development. Even to the footwork thing, like that was night and day from, preseason week 1 or even regular season week 1 to, regular season week 18.
Absolutely, man. It's exciting times in Broncos country. First year with some expectations, I think, this next year. I'm looking forward to it. I said last offseason, it was the narrative battle between Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. This year, I actually get to have some football conversations with people. This is fun. It's just a lot more fun of an offseason to be able to talk about how do we support our quarterback more than did our head coach set up our quarterback for failure, or all these just crazy talk last year. It's fun now being where we are.
Man, and isn't it interesting how the Russell Wilson experience in Pittsburgh went like the exact same way? Like they got out to this start and they were hitting on like these high variance plays and it was looking pretty good, and they were just bombing it down the field or throwing it underneath and trying to lean on the run game. And then eventually defenses caught on to that, and it was like a really disappointing close to the season. Isn't that kind of interesting? I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting.
The Russell Wilson effect, man. What do I gotta say? I mean, it's not like we called this over here. It's not like most of Broncos country was calling this out. Shout out to all the Russ Wilson stands. We didn't know you existed. I knew the LeBron stands. I'm following LeBron wherever he goes. Guys existed. I knew some of these guys. I didn't know Russell Wilson had those, but they do, and they're the most annoying people on the internet. Also,
hey, Raiders Nation, let's raid.
Dude, can we get him on the Raiders, please?
Pete Carroll, man. Pete Carroll. They need a quarterback. Russell Wilson's a free agent this year.
And Pete Carroll scares me a little bit. Russell Wilson comes to the town, that all goes away. I'm not like, hey, Pete Carroll, you could be as good as you want to be, bro. You're not. Russell Wilson's a bigger effect in that room. I'm telling you right now. Anyways, let's move on to the big game. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think it's like, we also have a Broncos audience here. Everyone's gonna have their opinion on the Super Bowl. Let's give ours real quick. Give me one interesting thing that you're looking for in this game? What's an exciting thing? Any first thought that comes to your mind about the Chiefs versus Eagles Super Bowl game here?
Yeah, I think it's just the interesting to me is, I mean, how much can this unbelievable combo of Mahomes and Kelsey and Reed and Spagnuolo overcome? Reed, if he stays on this track, is going to have greatest coach of all time conversations. Mahomes, like obvious there. Kelsey, I take Gronk over him, but he's already in those conversations. Spags, not a good head coach. Man, he might be the best coordinator of all time. Like it's him or Belichick. Again, like the lofty conversations we're having with all these guys now. I'd throw Chris Jones in there too. He's not quite at that level, but a great, one of the
good player
pass rushers in the game. Like are enough to overwhelm a Philadelphia team that I think is overall more talented, is probably the most talented roster in the league, and on paper matches up really well with them. The Chiefs have kind of made a living with this kind of hyper efficient underneath. We're just going to gain 4 or 5 yards every single play. And if we do get behind the sticks and it's a 3rd and long, Mahomes can bail us out. That's kind of been their strategy this season, and it's worked great for them. I think it's going to be really hard to do that against Philly. That they've got a size advantage on the defensive line, can stop that run game. Fangio's defense is great at firing downhill and rallying to the ball, stopping, these kind of run after the catch plays that Reed likes to set up. And then on the other side, Casey's run defense has looked really suspect these playoffs, and you've got Saquon Barkley on this amazing stretch. So to me, it's just like, how special can Mahomes and Reed and that whole crew be to overwhelm a Philadelphia team that is immensely talented and kind of built to beat this Chiefs squad?
I agree. I totally agree with you. I think the most interesting part to me, and you brought it up in your interesting parts, is just I always relate it back to the Broncos and one of my favorite coaches ever, Vic Fangio. He always has played the Chiefs really well. That's been something that's consistently happened, even in his times in Denver. He played the Chiefs well. His defenses did good, to the point where in other Super Bowls you see teams consulting Vic Fangio on what do we do here against the Chiefs. I think that's a really important nugget here. Is Vic Fangio going to be able to slow down this Chiefs offense in a Super Bowl game with Andy Reid? I mean, historically speaking, so far, the odds would tell you in Super Bowls, the teams are not able to. But I think they kind of, out of all the teams I've seen, I think the Vic Fangio-led Eagles defense might have the best shot, right? So I'm really excited to see that facet. Zach, I want to ask your not your score prediction. Just give me a winner. For me, though, saying the Chiefs will win will never come out of my mouth ever in my life. It just won't happen. I'm sorry. Not in a Super Bowl. You might catch me on a game being like, yeah, the Chiefs probably got this one. Never in my life in a Super Bowl. And if they do win, bro, I don't care what the Chiefs fans say. I'm blaming it on the refs. It's too much.
I get that 100%. I think, I can't pick the Chiefs. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if they win it. I keep kind of going back and forth, but I refuse to pick the Chiefs. Eagles, Fangio, our guy, Joey. This is a big Super Bowl for us.
Our guy. You're claiming Vic nowadays, Zach? Is that what's going on?
Man, I've always claimed Vic. I have always claimed Vic.
There's degrees. Let me tell you. I was on the we shouldn't fire Vic Fangio train. That's where I was back in the day. Right. I was on there. Yeah, I was right, by the way, too, because who did they hire? The great energy. We need energy in our locker room. They go and hire the guy that came to the intro like he just took 2 Adderalls and drank a cup of coffee. Nathaniel Hackett, the Tugalicious. We should have kept Vic Fangio.
If Teddy doesn't get concussed in week, 16 or whatever, they probably, there's a very good chance at the least that they make the playoffs that year with Vic Fangio as the head coach. And that would have been the one to break the drought.
It would have been amazing.
They were very close that year.
It would have been amazing. Shout out to Teddy Two Gloves, too, real quick, while we're at it. getting
Mm-mm.
signed in the playoffs. Tell me a quarterback that just gets to go doing that real quick.
It is true.
Anyways, guys, this was a hell of a show. Zach is amazing. Make sure you guys go check out his article with KOA. It's fantastic. Make sure you guys are reading letstalkbroncos.com. But until next time, I hope everybody has a great Super Bowl Sunday.